What up? What up? Late Night Live, episode 36. Thanks for everyone being here tonight. Steps Gaming is here. Beetlejuice. Let's go. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know if any of you guys saw that movie yet. I think it is out.
Came out yesterday.
Yeah. But we got a lot of stuff to go over, man. PAX West from last weekend. Holy moly, it was busy. Dathan went to Comic-Con today. Talk about that a little bit. The Stern X-Men machine looks amazing. I got video of that. And some of the gameplay the games we've been playing. So and I wanted to go into the topic too. Maybe I've been seeing this all over YouTube this last week. Is like apparently gaming is dead in 2024. So I wanted to go over what you guys thought about that. So I don't know. Ace of Jacks Media Grounds, Chris, how are you, sir?
Good.
Nice. Did you play any games last weekend?
I did try out Star Wars Outlaws. I've been playing Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, the Switch remaster version. Decided to try and go back to it. I beat it when it was on the Wii. And then I played Astrobot today.
Yeah, nice.
And so far that it reminds me of Super Mario Galaxy. So
I think it's better than Super Mario Galaxy, but we'll get into it.
It's an enjoyable game so far from what I've played. So
yeah.
It's game of the week.
I was telling you guys, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, like I was thinking it's going to be game of the year, probably right up there. I was right. Just putting that out there. Dathan.
What's up?
8-bit gaming legend, the teacher, the professor. How are you, sir? My drinking buddy?
I'm doing okay. Just recovering from a busy couple of weeks. So I'm glad to be back on the show and see all of your beautiful faces firsthand.
Absolutely. Did you get to play any video games last week? Not counting conventions.
Aside from PAX, which we'll get into. I picked up. I had some extra star coins on PlayStation Network, so I picked up Vampire Survivors because it's an easy game to play on the go. Played a little bit more college football. I did pick up Astrobot today, and I'm hoping to at least get a few hours into that this weekend. And then I'm hoping to try some Star Wars Outlaws this week as well. I think I'm just gonna get the subscription and just go from there.
Awesome. Cool. I got some footage from Star Wars Outlaws too. We'll talk about that as well.
Nice.
Eric, you made it. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm well.
Good. Any video games last week?
I briefly touched the Nintendo World Champions and really just been grinding on Link's Awakening. I beat Dungeon 7 and I'm trying to get into Dungeon 8, which is the last dungeon if you don't count like the chromatic dungeon for the Game Boy Color. Yeah. So
excellent. Yeah. That sounds like a good time. What year did that game come out?
I don't know.
Link's Awakening, 95, I believe.
Yeah. That late? I guess it would have been after Link to the Past, right? So yeah.
I guess it would have been
90.
Try 93.
93.
Okay.
That was probably your freshman year of high school.
93, 94, yeah.
Yeah. They just had the 30th, or they're going to have the 30th anniversary of PlayStation. And I guess that was 94. So wow, it's like, I was blowing my mind. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
90, that would be 94.
Bonkers. We're
And
old men.
the Dreamcast is 25 in a couple days too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember its revolutionary thing was it had a LAN port or Ethernet cable
Yep.
you could connect.
For I think it was Fantasy Star. Is that what it was?
You didn't have to buy a separate modem
You could
component.
the first game that I played was Choo Choo Rocket on it, where you could play online. But I think you could also play Quake 3 Arena online, and you get the Dreamcast keyboard and mouse.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
That was real. I mean, like a PC was superior at the time, but it was still cool. Did you guys get Astrobot? What do you think?
Amazon hasn't shipped my controller yet. I'm still waiting on that.
Oh, you got to get the place. I think PlayStation Direct is the way to go when you're getting this stuff, man.
Yeah.
The UPS next day is like at my door. Don't have to worry about it. Yeah. The physical copy is cool because it does come with a poster and like a comic book kind of thing on the other side. So my son was really excited to see that. And then you open up the disc. I should have brought it with me, but like once you take the disc out, there's artwork in that ring. So who would have thunk like physical, like a major publisher now is putting like, not only it's not an instruction manual, but it's the next best thing is like a poster and some kind of artwork, and the inside of the case looks good. It's like, wow, they actually rewarding people that buy it physically.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was speaking of physical media. I'm listening to this podcast called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, and they were talking about how we used to consume media, how we used to consume music in particular. But I think this applies to video games too. But we used to listen to music on tape or CD, and we used to read the liner notes, and we used to like see pictures of the band and see who they thanked and read who produced it, and link those to other bands and other names and other games. In this case, you might see the same like production house released other games, and that would lead you to explore other things. But I think we've lost that in the digital age, and that's kind of sad.
Well, you see, games don't have manuals anymore.
Right.
You open up a Switch box and it's just a little cartridge. That's all it is.
That's why it's good to hear that Astrobot thought so much about the physical media.
Yeah, there's a guy that for some of the higher profile games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, stuff like that. There's a guy that I think he's from the UK, but he's on Etsy, and he makes like leather bound manuals and stuff that has all these instructions and stuff like that, and it's really cool. I picked up a couple of those from him, but I see what you're saying about not having all this. There's nothing to see anymore,
right? And
there's always that thing about when you're a kid, you sit in the back seat and you're reading the instruction manual and the back of the box and all that stuff, and now that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
MG is in the house. Did you guys get your Concord controller yet?
No.
It
looks cool.
I almost bought it, you guys. Like, I was this close, and then I waited, and it sold out. So, if you got one, it's gonna be a collector's item.
I gotta go find me a copy of the game and sell it for $1,500 on eBay. That's what I need to do.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Eric's middle name is nostalgia.
Yeah, or listen to the Ringer podcast, 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. It's a lot of fun, and it'll do the same thing. Nostalgia blast.
Anyway. All right. Let's see. Okay, hide that one. All right. I wanted to go over the PAX West stuff. I played Astrobot for several hours today with my kids. Amazing. And then Star Wars Outlaws this week. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I will say, I told Dathan this. I bought a physical copy of Star Wars Outlaws, and I bring it home, and the disc is scratched. and it wouldn't. And I got it on Xbox. It wouldn't download on the hard drive so I could play it. So I'm like, crap, what do I do? So I really wanted to play it, and I didn't want to have to drive 8 miles to Best Buy, try to return it, see if they give me another copy. Like, I just wanted to play it, so I bought it digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple days later, I returned it, got a new copy, and I sold it to Chris. But, I tell you, I know you got everyone probably roast me for this, but like, man, I see the appeal of going digital, because like these discs, they do scratch, and
Sure.
how frustrating is it? Like, it's so much more convenient to just buy it. I know, like, I don't know, we go into the argument of we don't own anything online or whatever, but man, it's just instant. It downloaded perfectly. Like, I'm playing it. I don't have a physical copy anymore, but oh well. So I don't know. Really frustrating if you get a scratch disc. Now I will say the Nintendo Switch, if it's just on a little cartridge,
Mm-hmm.
those things work great.
Yeah. I was going to
So
say I don't have any disc-based consoles, so I've never run into this problem.
Your GameCube.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Eric, were you a geography teacher in high school?
Yeah. If you want to talk about the Sinai Delta, we can get into it.
But yeah, it's man. I
But
guess
let me ask you that: how many disc-based games have you bought that are brand new, just off the top of your head, and how many have you got that were scratched to not being able to play them?
it's probably this. I guess this is the first one.
Okay, so I guess you can just boil this down to just being kind of an isolated incident, or or it is
Okay.
work. And I'm kind of the same thing, because when I used to buy DVDs all the time, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of DVDs and Blu-ray, whatever, and none of them have ever shown up scratched or anything like that. So I think you just got unlucky with that one.
I bought a DVD once that wouldn't play, and it looked perfectly fine. And I sent my buddy Adam to go buy a copy of the same movie. It was Exorcism of Emily Rose, if anybody cares. And we swapped discs, and he said this one didn't work and returned it for me. So yeah, that for whatever reason that it showed up and it looked perfectly fine but wouldn't work. That's the only time I've had that happen, though, just once.
I have bought things at Best Buy, and then I bought it. I wanted it even faster, so I bought it on Amazon. Whatever was shipping faster, and I bought it, and then I got a second copy in the mail, and then I went and returned it. But this was like an actual product scratch, so you got to go into Best Buy and say, "Yeah, the disc is scratched," and the guy behind the counter is like looking at me like, "You know how to put it in, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I tried it. It says the disc is scratched," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if we can take this back. Like, let me call the manager over."
Sure.
I'm like, okay, here we go. And of course, the manager just goes like, "Yeah, just give him a new copy." They had one copy left. There you go. Thank you. So, but it's like, you really know how to put this in your Xbox, right? Did you scratch it? Like, oh, brother.
You lick them before you stick them.
I should be so lucky. Yeah, the thing, well, what Big ED is saying about CDs getting scratched and still working, the information density on a CD is just way lower than on the new game, media. So I think it seems like a minor scratch on a CD wouldn't do anything, but a minor scratch on like a Blu-ray or something would be much more fatal.
Agreed. Seems like I used to be able to, I'd put peanut butter on a CD, like if it was scratched, and it would work.
Huh. That's a weird...
It would work.
Yeah, I've got one Switch game that the dog got a hold of and chewed on, and it still works.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, let's just go back to cartridge-based games.
I tell you, the cartridges, they work great.
Yeah. Well,
That's
even the GameCube. Now that Dathan reminds me that GameCube's disc based, those are so much smaller that it seems like there's a risk of you scratching it because there's less media to scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of my GameCube games have gotten scratched, or if they have, they still work just fine.
Yeah, Alikrian and Chris, did at your video game store, didn't you guys used to have those disc cleaners in your store?
The
Like
resurfacers, yeah.
if you got a dirty disc and you put it in there and clean it, and then you could resell it.
Yeah.
That worked pretty well.
Yeah, it's because, as they're saying, the data is all on the top. So where the images and everything, that's where the data's at. So the underside that it's reading, if it's scratched up, it may be that the laser's not able to read through that scratch. So those resurfacing machines, all they did was they'd take out a layer of that, plastic protection till you get to the data.
The good stuff.
Breathe in all the microplastics.
Oh yeah. Breathe it in. I just like to go get my bottled water and drink it in.
Fair enough.
It's tough when Costco's selling 48 bottled waters for $3.99. I could go to my faucet and get all that plastic, but why do
you got to get your forever chemicals where you can, man.
Yeah, Chris and his brother owned a video game store, you guys. If you didn't hear that.
It was my dad. My dad and my brother owned the video game store.
Okay. It was in the family.
Yeah. I went there and wasted time.
You worked there. You were behind the counter, weren't you? Yeah.
Well, I just walked behind the counter. I'm like, yeah, I work here. What do you want?
Did he run all his customers off playing Twilight on repeat? Oh, guys, check out his video. So he watches Twilight. So he watches 2 movies, Twilight movies. But I swear to God, go check out that YouTube video. Go to any point during the movie, like where he's watching the movie. He's on his phone. Check it out. Like I go to check out the first minute, check out the last minute, check out any random minute in the middle.
Is there any other way to watch Twilight? He's not watching
the movie.
I mean, of course not.
That is not a serious watch because you're not watching the movie.
I had to save my sanity somehow watching that stuff.
I guess I probably would have been doing the same thing. But anyway, just if you guys, check that out. Maybe I'll put the link below at the end here. But anyway, bizarre. All right, I wanted to play some video from PAX West. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. Man, it was busy. Dathan went Friday and Saturday. I met up with him on Saturday. And you can kind of see there are a lot of people here. Can you see the background there? Here's the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Next week, this comes out digitally. Dead Rising remake. The new Zelda game for Eric.
Nice.
We're probably all going to get this.
It's a lot of fun. I had a good time with it.
Yeah. We won't go there, but yes. But I know Dathan did play this, but the line was so long. Like I decided. Oh, let me pause back. I decided not to play it. I just kind of got back behind there and I watched other people play it.
Was it just a 15-minute demo?
It was 15 minutes, and there was no. You'd start in the prison, and the goal was to get out of the prison within the 15-minute time period.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert: I guess you get put in prison.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the beginning of the game, and then they introduce you to your little character, like right above where Zelda's head is, that little floating orb thing. Yeah. that's kind of your sidekick, and then that's what lets you copy certain items that are in the game, and then you use your D-pad to scroll over to I think I scanned maybe 10 to 15 items in that 15-minute period, or 10 to 12 items, and then one of them's like a bench, and you can do up to three benches to to go over the I don't know why I'm pointing to go over the top there. But it's very intuitive, and it's I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And they are bringing back traditional dungeons in this, so there'll be 8 dungeons with a mini boss, and you get you'll probably end up scanning a power up or something like that to advance to move forward.
Now, does the little character is it as annoying as Navi was?
Navi. I was thinking.
No, not really. They didn't. The sound was. I couldn't really hear the game because there was so much stuff that was going on. But
yeah, it was loud.
Yeah, it was very loud in there.
If it's not yelling, "Hey, listen to me" every couple minutes, I'm not interested.
This is the first time I've seen a MVSX in person. This is the Unico booth. These look pretty cool. I know these came out a couple years ago. If you're a big Neo Geo fan. So I was thinking about putting this in a YouTube short, but I haven't yet.
You got to go back to that person who was just pounding the buttons.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, that lady doesn't know what she's doing.
She's playing it like every character is secret moves of E Honda.
Right.
Well, that's how I played it back in the 90s.
We were all guilty of it.
It's like Soul Calibur. That's how you play Soul Calibur. You just button mash and just hope for the best.
I was going to say that's how I played every Tekken game. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
This is the new one right here. This is the Nova Blast. Dathan, this thing looked pretty nice, right?
I was very impressed with this. The screen looked gorgeous. The buttons it was a well-made machine. And you can hook up pretty much, I think he said, anything in the back. They had adapters for everything, and it was good. I don't know how much it cost. He didn't. Did you get that info from him? I didn't.
I was gonna look it up before the show, but I forgot. But I think it's over $1,000. There's no way. It's too nice. That screen is beautiful. And it looked like we were playing Guilty Gear, but it wasn't. It's some other game right there.
1,400.
That's probably about right.
That's probably about right. But here's the video of the back. They were running some kind of a little PC there.
Yeah, and he was saying that you could hook up. Didn't he say like Neo Geo cartridges, like the fat ones that you could put in there?
Yeah.
And a Raspberry Pi, and I mean, pretty much anything you could go in there. He did not. He stopped at Xbox and PlayStation 5. Like he didn't go up that high. He basically said PlayStation 4. I think he said Nintendo Switch, and that was the highest. Yes, it was Blaze Blue.
Yeah, Blaze Blue. Yeah.
That was the current that you could get to with it.
And here's a video at the Team Asobi booth, where I was not allowed to take video, but we did it anyway, overlooking someone's shoulder. Maybe I'm gonna skip this. We've been playing this all day today. There was a new boxing game. I took video of.
It was Undisputed.
Oh, okay.
Is that actually Muhammad Ali, or is that just...
Yeah, that's the real Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Limited Run Games is there. They had a pretty big booth. I don't know who owns Limited Run, Embracer Group now or whatever. I feel like they invested in their booth. Like it's much bigger, and they've got lit cases. The lighting in there is pretty good, and I bought a copy of Contra. I think Dathan, you got one too, and maybe
Yeah.
some other stuff. Here's a game that I guess Limited Run is putting out next year. It's a shoot 'em up.
Carthian.
Yeah, that I can't even read what the title is at the top there.
It had
But-
very heavy Sega Genesis vibes to it.
Yeah. But this would be cool on the Switch. I don't know. Let's see. Scoot ahead. This was the Artivision booth. These guys will probably be at PRGE.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cool artwork to get. Oh, and then this guy was selling all this graded video games. Get that graded Nintendo Power. Graded Sonic and Knuckles. No.
Maximum Carnage.
The Maximum Carnage, but it's in the red. It's in the red case, or the red. What does it say? Yeah. Graded Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Jet Set Radio. John Madden Football. I don't know. Just seems like a waste to me. Yeah. I don't know. If they're making money, I guess go for it. Here's the Atari booth.
What were they selling?
Atari?
Yeah, were they pushing anything?
This is their new.
Plus?
That's
Yeah,
the 7800 plus.
Yeah.
And they have some new video games. If you spent $10, you could get a bag. I think, yeah, they have a new Yar's Revenge game.
Where's ET?
Well, Atari doesn't have the rights to ET. Wasn't it Parker Brothers or something?
I don't know.
They did have the new Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, and that looked really cool.
It looks like TMNT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. I know a lot of people are excited for this. Late 2024 is what I heard. I don't think they've given a firm release date yet. There was a pretty big line to play this too.
I mean, there were lines to play everything. So it was,
Yeah.
it wasn't
Man.
even just some of the games that you're just like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it was like, oh, the line's, 300 people deep. So
Yeah, I'm seriously considering going on Friday next year. There was so many people. They had this was their fighting arena. They were playing Street Fighter 6. I don't know. I guess this is the hip fighting game to play still. I stopped playing it. I think, yeah, that's the end of the video. So, yeah, but Dathan, it was still pretty fun. We got to drink a beer together, and that was awesome.
yeah, it was a good time. It was just the amount of people there on Friday and Saturday was a little overwhelming. I wasn't expecting that many, especially on Friday, because I got there really early on Saturday, and there was already just a bunch of people that were waiting in line, and I was trying to get you in, but they weren't having it. They weren't letting anybody else in the little area, but it was quite a bit. It was a little claustrophobic at times, and I'm reading on the Discord forums that there was a lot of people that COVID got passed around, and a lot of people got sick, and it was to be expected, with the close quarters. But if you've never been, it's definitely something to do. It's definitely fun. When the start of the show, when you mentioned something about gaming is dead. This proves that it is far from anything like that. Just with the amount, there's something for everybody in the gaming community at these conventions. There's board games, arcade games, every PC games. If you want to dress up like a furry and walk around, that's your thing. Hey, whatever, have fun. That's a thing too. But yeah, it was. I had a good time. It was fun.
I did not get recognized there, so but yeah, they probably would have made me go to the back of the line. They did, yeah. The security lady, he tried to get me in through the door, and they wouldn't let me. So
They're like, we know about the soundboard, back of the line.
right. But yeah, we can. I mean, so many YouTubers I saw saying gaming was dead after the Concord stuff this week. If you didn't hear, Concord was officially I don't know what you call it, canceled.
Well, they said delayed for a rework, right?
No,
No,
Oh, did they
not.
cancel?
they shut down the servers today officially.
Mm.
But one of the biggest, from what I've read, one of the biggest reasons is the game was never planned for like a free to play model, and because of that, there's no way for them to re-release the game the way it is as like a free to play, which is what they would have had to have gone to.
I see.
So instead, they announced they were refunding everybody who had bought the game. Digitally, at least. I don't know how they're going to do like physical copies, but
So what they were doing with physical copies in stores is if a store had a physical copy of the game still on the shelf or in the store anywhere, they were getting recalled and they were getting sent back to whoever. So even if they had a copy, you wouldn't have been able to buy, unless it was a mom and pop store or something like that, or it was en route, to, like, I think I heard some people from GameStop, their copy was en route when the shutdown happened, and they ended up getting their copies. They don't send them back, obviously. But if it was in store and they had copies, they had to send them back.
yeah, it's well, and there were so many reviews that I read that were like, "Oh, this game has no innovation. There's nothing new it brings to the table, but it's the best game of the year." And it's like, well, if it's not doing anything new, and it's the same stale shooter hero genre that Overwatch was, you're not going to get new people in to play it.
Well, we can debate whether, like, yeah, I guess it was whatever. It was a bad game, but I think it was fascinating that Sony had the balls to return it, to recall it, and and people were crying like, man, this is a low point in video game history. Like, this is the crash of 1983 all over again. People are gonna stop playing games, and I'm just like watching a whole bunch of these YouTube videos. I don't know if you guys do, but I'm just like, people are just hating on everything right now. And like today we get Astrobot.
Game of the week, baby.
Amazing game. My good. Let me see if I can pull up. I might. Wait. This is the.
But the thing is, with Astrobot, it's the game is fantastic, but people are still going to be upset with it because it's only 6 hours. Or it's only 8 hours, or however much it it takes to do everything. And that's just how it is.
I don't know. Well, I think it's longer than 6 hours because I was playing it for like 3 today, and I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface.
Well, I mean, if you were to go through and platinum it, I think it's much longer. But I think if you were just to do like the base story, I think it's about 6 to 8 hours.
To get every little thing and to platinum it, it's gonna. I'm curious. I haven't heard exactly how long it is, but I was playing this boss. It was fun. My son was playing it. My daughter's on the couch cheering him on. My wife comes out, starts watching this, like she's interested in this game. It's like, just bringing the whole family together. Like,
Well, it's this game is a clear example of what happens when you have a studio that understands
yeah, okay.
like the controls, the system, and everything. Because the haptics for the controller, everything about it is smooth.
Yeah, they know how to work. I don't know why other PlayStation 5 games don't take advantage of the controller like Team Asobi does with these games. It's just
Well, Team
great.
Asobi is the original um, Japanese group. What were they? Japan Studio. So one of the original development groups for the PlayStation systems. They've been there since the beginning.
And there's no other, like, Xbox doesn't have any kind of game like this. I'd say Nintendo is probably the closest thing, but even Nintendo, I feel like, hasn't put out a game like this all year. This is good, you guys. Let's see, what does Oligrin says? Just writing a paragraph. Problem is that legitimate criticism is lumped in with hating on a game. I've seen the rise of toxic positivity just as much as toxic hate in this industry, unfortunately. Nuance is dead. Okay, yeah. MG says, it's going to be so hard to play with stupid haptics. I'm out. Really? Nah.
It's not hard to play with the haptics.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, I hear too, like, you know, back in the day, retro gaming, that's where this is at. Like, and I don't know. I'd love to hear Dathan talk about it a little bit, but like, because I know you got that huge NES collection. Like, this was great. Like, it's never going to get better than this. I'm like, really? Playing this on a beautiful 4K television? I don't know. I think people need to live in the moment more. And like, this is a good time. I think 10 years from now, we'll be going, hey, do you remember when this game launched? Where were you? Like, I had the whole family over. We're playing it. We're having a great Friday afternoon. I mean, we're going to be playing this all weekend. This is good stuff. But like no, it's back in the 80s when I had to walk 10 miles to school or whatever. But we had it good with Super Mario Brothers and Contra and all this. Like, yeah, those were good, but what we got right now is really good too.
Well,
I don't know.
I think another reason why some people are saying that gaming is dead in 2024 is it's kind of the same thing as streaming services. There's so much content right now. There's so many video games that are released on like a daily basis.
So that's a bad thing?
When you only have so much time and money, there's going to be games that can be amazing that people are going to love and everything, but not everybody's going to be playing them. Not everybody's going to be buying
but would you rather have only like a couple games available to play? When you were a kid, you didn't have much money. We have more money now than when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, but I mean, then at least I finished a game.
Yeah, we had more time. That's the thing. When we're older, we don't have any time to play these.
You finished,
Absolutely.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's one game.
But I don't know. I'm really sick of hearing people say that this generation of gaming, like, there's nothing to play, nothing interesting. There's like tons of games to play. There's a game for everybody, and there's different type of gamers out there for sure. I like to play the newer stuff mainly. I know there's people out there that try to go into the resale stores and buy the older games. They're into that. There's guys here that play Legend of Zelda from 1995.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if gaming's dead, it's not gonna affect me. All my games
like,
are 30 years old.
Yeah, well, yeah. If gaming is really dead, you can still play all the old games.
Sure.
So,
but it's not. I don't even know where somebody would say that. Gaming is never. Well, maybe it's been bigger. I don't know, but it sure as heck is leaps and bounds above what it was when it was getting its start. Getting its start back in the day. Like, it's an industry now.
Bigger than
it wasn't back then. Back in the old days, back in the old days, people were making games and selling them in a software store that they worked at, selling word processors.
Hmm.
That's how a lot of this got its start, right? Or you'd go to the arcade and play for an hour there. Now we've got way more. So I think that people who say that don't understand how far it's evolved to the point that it's now an industry that competes with, say, Hollywood.
It
And that's
outruns Hollywood.
insane to me to think of.
That's a very good comparison, and I think
Yeah.
that these people that are saying there's nothing to play or the whatever is how far back do they go to gaming?
Right.
What was there? Because the five gentlemen on this panel right here, I mean, guys, we wake up and our bodies ache because we're so goddamn old now, and so we've been playing games for so long that we did play in the Pong era and the Colecos and the Ataris and stuff like that, when we have a much higher appreciation for gaming as it is now than it is. And I think that I don't like using the term this generate, get off my lawn, generate, that type. I don't want to say that, but
No.
I think people are, maybe it's a little bit kind of spoiled with gaming as it is now, because there is, like Chris said, there is so much content available to play.
But that's the thing though. Like, let's say, so like I have found that I've been gravitating more towards AAA games. So more of the movie experience, storytelling experience while I play. So like interactive movie stuff. Like I just finished Uncharted 4.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was awesome. Like it was time well spent.
Raiders, just what we needed.
If you don't like that, it doesn't matter, because there's 50 indie style games that were released 2 weeks in the last 2 weeks. Go find a Zelda knockoff, or go find a Metroid knockoff, or go find a Battletoads knockoff if that's what you want.
Sure.
Right? Like it's just everywhere. It's all across the board. If you want a roguelike RPG type thing, those are out there in spades too.
I mean, we used to go to the video store to rent games, right?
Yeah.
And we'd base our decision on nothing else other than the cover art. That's what we had to go on. Like maybe there was a good explanation on the back of the card, but sometimes that was obscured by the packaging that the company that's renting you used. So
or the translation.
Yeah, it could be just a bad, Japanese translation that you didn't even know what you were getting. You just looked at the art and you're like, oh, let's try this. I don't know.
That looks rad for a Saturday. Yeah.
So
no,
choice. I mean, get off my lawn.
Right. Like, I mean, in a way, but at the same time, I take the get off my lawn more as the type of guy who says, oh, these new games are too easy. They hold your hand. They take notes for you. And my response to that is, okay, great for me, because I don't have time for that nonsense anymore. I did when I was in the 7th grade. And if you don't like it, there are games that don't do that now.
I started taking
as well,
Zelda,
right?
So I'm back there.
Yeah, you're back at it because you're playing a game 20 years. And then that's the other thing too that makes these last 5 years of gaming so good is I now, as a PC gamer, am able to finally find out what the hubbub was about with all the Sony Studios games, because they're just remastering and releasing those for people like me. Right. So now I'm finding all these games that I missed out on that are really enjoyable experiences. And so they can keep doing that. Like I played through Day of the Tentacle remastered.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have played through it if it wasn't remastered.
Right.
I played through a remastered version of it, and it was a lot of fun. So 20, 30 years later, that game was now available to a whole new generation. And it's a completely different type of game than anything that's offered nowadays, right?
Sure.
So no, I think that now the selection, if anything, it's maybe too vast, but I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. You know,
if you ask kids nowadays, and this is a video from Star Wars Outlaws, you can play a video game
in the
game.
Yeah,
so
funny.
I took a video of that, but yeah, ask my kids or whatever. Hey, do you think gaming is dead? My son's just gonna look at me and hit me. Like, no, of course not. Like, so I think it all depends on what generation I guess you're talking to too.
Man, people like to complain. Even complaining about people who are complaining, right? You know, that's a pastime in and of itself.
I mean, you talked about AAA games. You enjoy those, Travis. Baldur's Gate 3 is not considered a AAA game.
No, it's not. But in my definition of it, it meets all the boxes, so I consider it one.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is it's
Right.
like, there's the people out there that want to gatekeep and say that, oh, because it's not made by Ubisoft or
Yeah.
EA or Take Two, these
Sure.
games aren't AAAs, and there's several games out there that you could say are AAA games that are made by a smaller studio, but
Smaller studio, yeah.
they still do as well. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I guess I should define, when I say AAA, it's like a genre to me, right? It's like
Sure.
cinematics, spoken dialogue, good voice acting, good character reproduction and modeling, and the technology behind that, and then movie scope story,
Baldur's
like,
Gate is
or
for
book
sure all of
scope.
those things. Yeah.
It is. So that's why I consider it within that. I guess when I say AAA, I don't actually consider it the size of the studio that made it. I think of it more as like a genre of a game itself, right? Like a text-based adventure
well, and
game
I
is a
mean, you've got,
genre.
for a lot of studios nowadays, even as smaller independent, you're either using the Unreal Engine or Unity.
Yeah.
Um, I think Star Wars Outlaws uses Ubisoft's Snowdrop engine, which is a completely different thing. But there's Unreal Engine 5 right now for a lot of like independent people who want to make a video game. It's giving them more access, more ways to make those higher budget looking games that people want to play.
So Alikrian actually has a point that I was actually talking with another friend about, actually, where single player gameplay as the core focus are being sought out more again. My thing that I was kind of asking my friend earlier this week was, it seems to me like competitive online gaming, like deathmatch style games and things like that, it seems like to me those are dying right now. In not dying, like they'll come back, but it seems like the popularity recently has waned quite a bit on those. But maybe because I'm not in that thing, like that's not my game of focus. It seems like that, like those games are kind of going away right now in the market.
Yeah, I never really got into those games, but
You definitely.
Helldiver seems to be an indication, right? Their
yeah.
user base has dropped a lot.
I think Helldivers 2 is a great example. Well, that's why Sony could afford to do all this stuff with Concord, was because Helldivers 2 was such a great success for them. They made a lot of money with that game. They were able to cut their losses. I also hear too, people like, why are they making that game? Like, why are they making this game? They're chasing trends, and I guess it took like 8. I don't know how long did it take to make Concord, Chris?
They say 8 years, but I was just looking,
Yeah.
and the studio that made it has only been around for 4.
But Helldivers is co-op, right? Not PvP sort of stuff.
It's PvE.
Yeah,
Right. See, that I don't think is dying. It's more the PvP, like the Quake Arena, those games, Overwatch, right?
Well, Call of Duty is not dying, I'd say.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
That's PvP.
Okay. Okay.
But I hear people like, yeah, if they've been making it for 8 years, someone had an idea 8 years ago, they want to make this game. And I think 8 years ago, that kind of PvP game was popular. And they're like, oh, maybe I can submit this as a game idea to Sony. And they approved it. All right, now we got some money. We're going to make this game. Take 8 years to make it. And then it's a massive flop 8 years later. Like, you got to predict. Like, if you're a game producer now, a programmer, what's going to be popular 5 years from now? And maybe that's a problem with how long these games are and how massive they are. They need to do tighter, shorter games that they can finish in 1 to 2 years. And
then stop charging $80 for it.
oh,
right?
yeah, and that too. Yeah, absolutely.
If it's a shorter, less advanced game, I'm fine with that. Indie games are kind of what I gravitate towards anyway, generally speaking. Yeah. I mean, at least on a non-Nintendo platform. Then you can't charge me $60 or $80 for a game that I'm only going to play for 4 or 5 hours.
Well, and I think the one that kind of kicked off a little bit of the, and I'm probably way wrong on this, but my recollection is that one of the games that kind of kicked off a big like a big outside the indie gamer thing attraction to indie games was actually a game called Braid.
Braid, yeah, Braid was big.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that's where all of a sudden people were like, hey, have you heard of this game Braid? Go get it. It's $15, I think, at the time, or $10 at the time.
Sure.
And try it. And it was outside of what people were playing at the time, which were more of those well polished titles, and it was cool. It was cool, and it was something to talk about because it also had that like, what exactly was that, thing going on. um, I think that helped kick off a little bit of the indie gamer thing that has, I think that kind of helped that become its own thing. And I actually do think that game was influential as to what we have now for our offerings.
If you're an indie gamer fan and you went to PAX West, and Dathan can attest to this, though there was a ton of indie games there, and there were people everywhere walking around looking at those things. Dathan, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
man, so many indie games there.
I think there were a bunch there last year when we went.
I think it was even more this year.
Yeah,
It was nuts.
It was pretty stacked this year.
It was nuts.
I mean, and there have been a lot of them that I've played through recently. I consider them indie style games. I don't know how indie they really were,
Mhm.
but looking at the list, like Little Nightmares was fun, and then Oxenfree was cool. Like, those kind of games can be can be out there and can be really good.
Oxenfree was like interactive fiction though, rather than like
Yeah.
a game. But that it was fine
It was
as an
cool.
experience. I liked playing it. Yeah,
Yeah, I had some puzzles in it, right? Like, it was a bit of an adventure game.
sure.
And there are more that aren't coming to mind right away that have kind of kept that going, right? And Telltale was doing some cool things with like the interactive novels and things like that they were doing. I just, when people say that gaming is dead, I see it as, I see the argument against that is just look at how many genres and offerings and price points and everything we have now, including free to play
Right.
that exists, or freemium that exists. That stuff's insane, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I think that it's the opposite, that you could kind of take somebody and say, okay, you're mad because maybe there isn't a game immediately for you to go replace the one you just beat that is a sequel to that, but the industry's huge right now. Like, I feel anyway.
I think
Well,
the expectation when people buy new gen consoles is that they're going to be dazzled by it, but there has been a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
We haven't. It seems like we've been saying as a gaming community that we've been saying we're going to get out of the uncanny valley for the last 20 years. In 5 years, we'll get out of the uncanny valley.
Hmm.
And it hasn't happened. You can still tell that CG characters are CG, and the idea that somehow getting out of the uncanny valley would solve the problem, that would make games interesting again in ways that maybe they've kind of plateaued. At least the AAA games, to me, it feels like they've kind of plateaued, but I don't really play them.
Yeah, but to counter that, though, it was only 3 weeks ago that we were looking at a preview of NCAA, talking about how you could sit this in front of somebody and trick them into thinking it's a full. Yeah,
He was in there for that.
trick them into thinking it was an actual football game.
Sure.
I mean, because it is more realistic than it ever has been.
Yeah. But I mean,
And to me, I guess that's not a barrier
fails-
to storytelling.
it fails. It's not. It's really not.
Yeah.
I think some of the most compelling games I've played were not at all realistic.
Right.
So yeah.
What are you talking about? Minecraft isn't realistic.
Stardew Valley? Yeah. No, I mean that it's just interesting to me I just think that people are complaining to complain, because to me it just seems like the industry is is huge, you know, and at some point maybe that'll be a bubble that has to burst. Like Eric is saying with price points of games. I mean, gosh, it is hard to think about paying that much for Star Wars.
Well,
And
okay.
that's as somebody who really wants to see it.
Here's the, you know, the like Dathan was saying, the benefit of being old men is that we do have some perspective. And I don't know if you've forgotten, but if you can look at like advertisements from Toys R Us from like the early 90s where they're advertising Super Nintendo games or whatever.
Yeah, they
And
were expensive.
they were expensive. They were like
Yeah.
$65 in
They're 69 bucks, right?
back then.
I
Yeah,
will
I
give
know.
you one better. I bought Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for Super Nintendo at EB Games,
Uh-huh.
it down in Eugene, and it was $79.99,
Wow.
Right.
$80 for Super Nintendo.
And on the
Yeah.
PC gaming side, the Ultima series was always, I think,
Expensive.
priced at $69
Sure.
for software back in like the IBM PC Junior days.
Right.
And so then the question that I actually had, Dathan, maybe you'll know this because I was talking with a friend about this. Was the goal of the Super Nintendo to really just move the console, because the console itself was like $100 and some, if I remember right, to buy, so that you could then get the consumer to buy all of these really expensive cartridges?
Yes and no. I think, well, when the console came out, it was $200, and
Oh, it was
basically-
two. Okay.
Yeah, because it was packaged with Super Mario Brothers, two
Okay.
controllers, and $200. But when I think that their vision was to outduel Sega at the time, because it was the Sega Nintendo battle.
Yeah.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Do you guys remember that ad?
Yeah, I do actually. I do remember that.
Um,
That's right.
And so, and they wanted to kind of to move on from the regular Nintendo, and that was one of the biggest issues that Nintendo had, was trying to convince parents, like, I got my kid a Nintendo, and he has 500 games or whatever, and he can't play them on this new console. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to just forget about everything that, they wanted to move on to this newer generation of consoles and go forward. And they started out small. I think the launch window for Super Nintendo games, I think it was 16 games, I think.
That's what I actually remember, is 16 on the box, because when my friend bought it, I remember it having little screenshots of like the games that you could buy at launch, right?
I think there were, Pilot Wings was one of them, and
Yep, Pilot Wings,
there were a few other ones, and they slowly started to expand, like, okay, we got something with this, and they're moving on to, they started getting into more of the main, that's why you didn't see a lot of the main titles until later on in the lifespan of the Super Nintendo.
Zelda and Metroid came later.
Yeah, and Donkey Kong Country didn't come until later. Star
much
Fox
later,
didn't come until later. Stuff like that. You saw all these other smaller games that were slowly kind of get to be brought up into the era. I think ActRaiser was one of them too. There were some other ones like that. So I think there were a lot of things that Nintendo was trying to do at that time, competing with Sega, trying to start this new thing. It was 32-bit. It was the thing at the time, and while trying to sell consoles and try and get as many games into their library as they could.
Interesting. Yeah, I just remember. Yeah, you guys raise a good point about the cost of the game. I mean, Eric, you raised it. The cost of the games back then. That was a lot. And I don't know, because I didn't have a console like that. I don't know how long it took somebody to actually work through one of those games. Like whether it was like you beat the game a week later or whatever.
Depends on the game. Zelda was always a great value, I thought, because you could spend months playing it, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, like I was just thinking about this today for some reason. Kung Fu, you can speed run Kung Fu on the NES in like 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Marble Madness, you can do 7 minutes, I think.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
And we have not Marble Madness, but we got Kung Fu at some point, and I'm sure Mom spent a lot of money on it, and it was not money well spent.
Okay,
You know,
interesting.
whereas Zelda for sure was. I mean, like I said, Dave and I spent months playing that game.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, that's an interesting take on it. It may
It,
I
it,
don't
it,
think it'd make me feel any better about spending that much on Star Wars, but it's good to know that I would have had to in the 90s anyway.
it's like cars in a lot of ways. A lot of people complain about, oh, you know, cars aren't very cool anymore, and they're nostalgic for the '60s or whatever
Mhm.
genre of car that they like. But you know, cars are safer than ever. They're more efficient than ever. They have more features than ever. Like this is really the golden age. You know, if you take a Honda Accord and put it against anything from the '60s, it would win. Like it's faster than any of the muscle cars from the '60s. A lot of people forget that. We're really in the golden age of games in that way. They're cheaper than ever. You know, if you look for the right games, especially the indie games, or maybe a game that's a year or two older, um, we're in the golden age. You're spoiled for choice. You have
Yeah.
all the information to select the exact game you want on the internet. You can research it and find it and get a
Mhm.
game that you have very high confidence is going to be entertaining to you. We didn't have those luxuries as
You
kids.
can download it from Steam if you're a PC gamer and refund it as long as you haven't played it for greater than 2 hours. So
Wow.
every game has a built-in demo, right?
Sure.
I want to say too, like if you're out there and you have a game idea for a game, you can
Hmm.
more easily make that game now than you could have
Yeah.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago. It's the
Absolutely.
barrier to entry is so much easier for people all around the world if they want to make their own video game.
Yeah. I mean, I've played with
So,
Unity. It's
yeah.
it's
So,
right there.
I mean, and all it takes is just like, for every, 50 to 100 games that are thrown onto a console, an indie game, there's always going to be that one or two that, Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was a huge success.
Yeah.
And, Braid was, and those, Super Meat Boy, I think,
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
another, popular one. And so there's always going to be those games that are just going to be like, wow, you got to go try this. You got to go try this type of game.
we're talking about the Ubisoft games.
Uh,
Yeah, if you don't want to pay full price for the new Star Wars, I mean, Travis, don't.
yeah,
But
but then it'll be
but
an
Chris,
old game.
right? Well, Chris, I
Yeah.
want to hear what you think about it. From I don't know how long you played it. I'm like 9 hours into it.
Oh, I'm maybe an hour and a
Okay.
half. But I mean, all the videos I've seen of like the speeder bike constantly running into like things and getting stuck.
I
Oh
haven't gotten mine
no.
stuck. I have ran into things and I've gotten pushed off my bike.
I
But
mean, based on those videos, I was expecting that to be like really clunky,
Mm.
and I was actually kind of surprised by the fact that driving the speeder really isn't clunky. Like it functions, but there's no physics to it. So it's like when you hit something, it's like a rock. It's two rocks hitting each other.
Hmm.
And so you come to a complete stop when you hit somebody else.
There's no elastic collision. You don't bounce off
No,
it.
it seems to be missing from it. So
Huh.
it may be something they can fix down the road with a patch, because that's what a lot of these big
Well,
studios do nowadays. Is they just
have
patch
you
things
done
down.
any of the stealth missions yet?
That's where I stopped at. I
So
was doing a stealth mission that couldn't do anything with. I kept getting caught, so I was like, screw this.
So to answer your question, MG, no snake in this tank, but I do have two reptiles downstairs. I am reptile guy.
Nice.
He takes them to the mall and walks around.
No, I do not take them to the mall and walk around.
Oh, you don't
No.
have a bag
Thanks for
full of
coming on,
them like
MG.
Jake the Snake Roberts?
No. I don't have any snakes. Just reptiles, which, depending on who comes over as a house guest, can be as bad as a snake or can be as interesting as they want it to be if they can find the thing. But no, we got a regular zoo over here.
Chris, I want you to do more of those stealth missions and tell me what you think, because I think my only criticism so far is those stealth missions have almost been too difficult at points. Like I think I'm like playing at normal difficulty, or I'm definitely not playing it easy. But
Well,
I had,
that's kind of the feeling I've gotten off the one that I've been doing, and is there's indicators of where you're supposed to go, but it's like the moment somebody notices you, it's like, oh, you're caught. That's it. Stealth mission's over. You have to restart.
I will say, like, there's this one port you have to break into an Imperial base on the main planet. You do the main missions on at the beginning of the game. There are multiple ways to break in, and at one point, like, I was just trying to break in for like a half hour. I finally found there's a way in the back to do it, and then I got spotted, but I quickly ran into a room, and they found me in there, and I died. And then I came back, and it was like the Empire hadn't noticed me.
Oh, it glitched.
So it glitched, but I was in. So sometimes, like, you just got to be lucky too.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you feel like you're being corralled into a certain path, or there's lots of different ways to complete the stealth missions, because Thief was one of my favorite games, and it seemed like there were infinite ways to accomplish your mission in any given Thief run. Which
You
was
have the interesting thing is there's 3 factions. You can align yourself with the Hutts. There's the Crimson Dawn, and then I can't remember the third one. But it's all about who you want to help or not help and give information to. And then once you are like good with the Hutts, you can go into their area of the city, and they'll give you good deals on stuff. They'll give you the good merchandise. But if you are bad with the Crimson Dawn or whoever, you can't go into their area. You got to sneak in. So that makes it interesting. And then later on, the story's going to change. Maybe you have to make a decision, and that could flip flop. So that's an interesting dynamic. So maybe I don't know. I'm gonna still be playing it. I think it's interesting. I think it's more interesting than the last Jedi Survivor for sure. I don't know if you who played Jedi Survivor.
I haven't finished it, but
I looked at it though. It looked kind of like it might be okay, but I didn't pull the trigger on that one.
I played it for like 30 minutes.
Okay.
The first one, Fallen Order, was a better game.
Okay.
So,
and then I wanted to talk about this thing that got finally revealed before we.
Oh yeah.
Stern X-Men.
It just looks very busy. There's a lot of stuff going on.
There is a lot of stuff going on.
It's like they got the Days of Future Past storyline.
That looks really cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The 3 flippers.
3? Okay.
They're on the bottom there.
I don't know if I like 3 flippers.
I'm not a fan of 3 flippers. I'm not a fan of...
I'm fine with 3 if there's one up in the playfield, but all at the bottom.
I think that third flipper on that bottom left is part of a loop that goes all the way back and around again. If I remember seeing the original video, so it's not.
It's not a drain.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then it's probably not too bad.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad.
But when I see 3 flippers or 4 flippers where there's drain possible, then all it does is bring me back to Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion, yeah, that's I like that game. I do like it, but the 4 flippers is frustrating.
Brutally hard, and I do like it myself, but because of that, it's disorienting, and you got to spend time warming up with that game, I believe.
Yeah.
Does this look better than Iron Man to you, Travis?
Yeah, this does a lot better.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
I
is-
see
looks
the
like
roof,
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
on
with
the
that.
side,
Yeah,
if you
right.
get to that the third flipper on the side, that's the danger room. So
I
I think
see.
you
Yeah.
can
Okay.
get big scores right there. I think there's still just one main drop zone between the two flippers on the right here. I think
Yeah.
if you just get the ball over to that left area, I think that's just a cool area to get extra points, from what I gather.
Well, it's got a stopper for you to nudge it back into the play field too.
Yeah.
There, so
Mhm.
I love how they're using the Sentinels as like the main villain kind of thing.
I mean, you can definitely tell they did not skimp on the artwork or the or anything. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on. It looks gorgeous.
Well, yeah,
Good,
yeah,
for like $10,000-$12,000, they better not.
for sure.
right.
The make or break thing for me is going to be, I think, the sound and animation. A lot of times I'll play these branded, pinball games, and if the sound, like, there's a Star Wars one, there's like 10 Star Wars ones, but
Yeah.
there's one in particular that the sound is just generic sci-fi sounds. It's not even
Yeah.
sounds from the movie, and I get angry playing that game because the sound doesn't sound like Star Wars, and it just
I think
pisses
that
me
was the Data East one.
yeah,
I
maybe.
think that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Oh, that was a good point. I wanted to actually bring up about that the Star Wars game that we're playing, Outlaws.
Mhm.
The John Williams Star Wars music
Yeah.
is not in that game. It's
Oh,
pretty,
interesting.
you know,
They couldn't afford it.
I don't know.
Is it at least orchestral, or is it?
It is
something-
orchestral. There is orchestral music in it, but the main Star Wars theme is not in the game at all.
Well,
that
that's-
almost makes me want to try it even more, though,
that's
to
kind of, I
see
think
how
that's kind of
well they did.
okay, because there's no Jedi
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah.
And the Star
Yeah.
Wars music is kind of reserved for Jedi stories, I feel like.
Anyway,
Um,
but
Well,
yeah,
that's
back
kind
to
of
the
played
pinball.
out, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, Dathan,
Yes,
what are you liking this?
I am liking this. I think this is
The side. Can I go back to that side?
this looks like a pretty solid machine. It does kind of look
Pause.
though with that left flipper on that far corner, like the playfield is shifted over to the right a little bit more. So that may be a little bit getting used to. Instead
like
of having
oblong,
everything
kind of
everything
oval.
having the dead center.
mhm.
Yeah. That'd be
Maybe
kind
I
of
should-
uncanny.
Did they make a Twilight pinball?
No
Chris?
idea. Couldn't tell you.
I don't think so.
That's not my area of expertise.
They did. I think Labyrinth came out also.
Really?
There is a Labyrinth one, but I don't think it's Stern. It's
not.
Jersey
I don't-
Jack or someone.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. I think they're starting to ship now to retailers or whoever distributors.
Anyway, that looks
I
really
gotta
cool.
spend more time playing Jersey Jack tables, to be honest.
I do wonder if Stern Pinball is going to do another home edition machine like they've got with the Jurassic Park one at Costco.
Yeah, they should do more of those. I
'Cause,
think.
Well, it's $6,000 on their website, but $4,800 at Costco. So
Yeah.
And are they going to put that on clearance eventually?
yeah,
Hmm.
who knows? I mean, it's a nice looking pinball machine for. It's got the Stern Connect and everything. You can have it there at your house. But
MG, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you and watching us. We appreciate you.
But look at that. MG goes and Dathan goes. Are we sure they're not
Oh,
the
we lost
same
Dathan.
person?
Nathan,
Can
you
you-
there?
Can you guys hear me?
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not gonna reset anything. I'll just
Yeah.
be
All right.
Yeah, you're good.
A phantom.
Uh-huh.
He heard you
But-
talk about Twilight, and he's out.
No.
Or you could talk about the Crow movie.
No, that's gonna get negative subscribers.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're gonna lose subscribers at that point.
But yeah, no, that home version of Jurassic Park they have at Costco is a pretty nice machine.
Did you play it?
Well, it
You
plays just like the ones up at Next Level Pinball Museum.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it full size though? Was it like the full on everything? Because I couldn't tell from the picture.
It's. I think the the home version is you're missing like the main video stuff, and there's like animatronics that are in the middle that you're definitely missing.
There might be animatronics. It has the video screen up top along with the speakers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's full cabinet size though.
It's full cabinet size.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
That's the table. That's another table. The Jurassic Park that we played, Dathan,
Mhm.
at that public house we went to
Yeah.
to play John Wick. Is that the one that they have for the home version for?
Yes, that's the most recent.
See, that one doesn't have the right sound either. Like a bunch of those sounds are off to me, and I didn't like playing that table because it didn't sound like Jurassic Park. At least not the first one. I that's the only one that I watched. I didn't watch the later Jurassic Park. So,
What was it? The Piccolo version of John Williams?
I don't remember the music. I remember the sound effects being like I've heard this in like generic monster movies before.
Huh.
Maybe I should send him a.
It sounded more
Was
like
it the-
Godzilla than anything.
I have the Mission Impossible one. Wait.
We were so
Like
close.
that?
So close.
Well, we almost made
Use-
it.
They should use that in the Stern Pinball table just for Eric. Mission Impossible table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't-
Day one purchase.
The recorder. Did you guys have a recorder in?
yeah.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's so good.
Yes.
They still
Everyone-
do that.
Why?
Did they let us keep our recorders? I don't think so.
It was $5 if you
Was
kept
it?
it. You weren't supposed to keep it, but if you did,
Yeah, I don't
$5.
remember being able to keep it.
No,
That
well,
would
you
have been
could.
so cool.
No, you could. Make him come get it. Who's gonna come get it? Mr.
I bought-
Koontz? No,
I bought
he's
my
not
last
leaving his
couch.
classroom.
I bought my last couch off of Craigslist, and it just had a bunch of shit in it. So I tipped it upside down
A
and got like
recorder filled out.
$5 and like 30 cents, and a recorder was in there.
Yeah, see,
That's awesome.
that's right. Yeah, nobody's coming to get that thing.
We can swap like marching band stories too, because I think Eric was in the marching band. I was. Chris was.
I was
Nope.
part of the
Not
percussion
me.
line.
Not me.
Dathan
Not me either.
did not have any musical skill, unfortunately.
I was the athlete.
I was in jazz band though. I think that kind of counts.
Did you do jazz hands?
I did not. Those weren't a thing back then. I don't think
Oh.
they were anyway.
So I wanted to, before we go, I wanted to ask a question, and maybe we can next week we can address it. I got into a Reddit argument over the weekend. At PAX West, I bought Grandia Collection on the PS4. It's Grandia 1 and 2. And so on the Reddit forum, people were talking about the Grandia and their favorite RPGs of all time. And there were a bunch of people that were on there that said Zelda was their favorite RPG that they have ever played. And I commented that Zelda's not an RPG. It is a action adventure game
Yes,
with keyword with RPG elements that are into the game. And obviously this spiraled down like, ooh, you're an idiot and all that stuff. So does everyone think that that's the same thing? And two, what is everyone's favorite RPG that they have ever completed or got close to completed?
Well, it's an action RPG if you're gonna use a modern name for it, right? But I agree with you. It's an action game action adventure game with RPG elements of character advancement. And I haven't played it, but if from what I've seen is correct, you level up by getting more hearts, which is like getting more health, right? But it's not as detailed even as like.
Well, you have the Nintendo World Championship, so that's like close enough. We'll just go with it.
Yeah.
Got a couple of Zelda games on there.
Yeah, but you don't have like strength, dexterity, constitution. You don't have those types of attributes in it, right?
No,
Your attribute is just hearts.
Yeah.
The Saiyan Spirit
Unless-
says Final Fantasy
correction.
7.
The Zelda Part 2, you do level up because you do get points to maximize
Zelda
your.
2 is not a Zelda game, though. Really, I mean, I keep saying that. Like, it was originally a different game, and that they just reskinned as a Zelda game, the same way Doki Doki Panic
Aha.
was reskinned to be a Super Mario 2.
Mhm.
So if you bring up counterpoints, based on Zelda 2, I'm like, of course, that game's not really Zelda. It wasn't designed from the ground up as a Zelda game.
But would you consider it an RPG though?
No.
No. Okay. Even though that you do level up, there are elements to it is an action game where you are getting this item to go do
But
this.
are
You are
you-
getting points to expand your, get stronger, to get more magic abilities and stuff.
But to me, the games that are RPGs are games like the Neverwinter Nights, or the first Baldur's Gates,
Yep.
or even the Star Wars one that they did, that BioWare did, where you could choose alignment choices that did have an impact in gameplay, in story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's like a set of attributes that an RPG needs to have, or there's a set of attributes that an RPG can have, and it needs a critical mass of those attributes to be considered an RPG in my brain. I think that's what's going on. So one of those attributes is your character needs to be customizable, right? Link's not customizable. He's just Link, right? At the end of Zelda, your Link is the same as every other Link, and that customizability might come in the super detailed. You can change his skin color, or you can change the gender, or whatever, race, blah blah blah, or it could be a little more. You could change the equipment he has on, right? But that's one of those elements. Another element, like Final Fantasy VII, for example, is turn-based. So turn-based is another, like Baldur's Gate 3 is turn-based. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 weren't turn-based, but you could play them that way if you press spacebar enough. It's effectively turn-based at that point.
I don't agree with the turn-based, because everything is turn-based down to seconds timing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's a set of elements you need to select from, and when you get a critical mass of these elements, it becomes an RPG.
Gotcha.
Is one of those things you can select from, and I'd say most RPGs that I have played do select that, but not all of them. Secret of Mana, for example, is not turn-based, but it's still an RPG. It's an action RPG, but it's still,
It's an action RPG that's arena style.
Right.
I guess, because you have your little circle of, you can't go past here or whatever. You have to stay within the spot.
But no, Dathan, I think you're on the right track. But as far as favorite RPGs, yeah, we should save that for next time, because that's going to be a whole nother thing, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I think I think though that you should be able, if we remember, I think though that you should be able to win your Reddit argument by just telling them that if they disagree, they're stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that's it's that's just facts. That's not even opinion.
Yeah.
Tell them that too.
Okay.
Just say this is just facts. It's not opinions. Yeah. No, I don't think it's a. I mean, now action RPG allows us, when we throw the ARPG, I feel like in modern definitions, that allows us to basically broaden that up to pretty much anything that allows some character development and progress as we're going. By that definition, the reboot of Tomb Raider would be an action RPG. Because as you're playing, you can level up Laura, pick new skills, and all of that good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So she becomes a bit of a character that you're playing through. But really, to me, the definition of role-playing game is that you're playing a role, which in old school terms meant that you were doing something alignment-wise that made an impact in a world based off those alignment decisions.
Well, I think it's deeper than just alignment. It's more like an archetype, right? Whereas your it's like the union between your alignment and your class. If we're talking Dungeons and Dragons, like, are you an evil rogue, for example? That's an archetype that you're playing. That's your role, right? Or are you a heroic paladin? Like, that's an archetype, and that's your role. So I think it's a little bit deeper than that. But yeah, I think you're on the right path.
And very few games let us do that. When they do come out, the reason why people kind of ooh and ah over them is because so few games really do let us do that.
Baldur's Gate
And
3.
Baldur's Gate 3 does, yeah, and that's why a lot of its praises were there. Same thing
Yeah.
with the one that was goofy that I did play through that one game of the year. What was that one, Eric? The one where the tie's talking to you. Um, come on, come on, come on. You're a detective, alcoholic detective.
Max Payne.
No, 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 no. This was
Sam and Max.
no. Why? I'm surprised nobody is like, yes, that one. Um,
Where's Alikrian in the chat?
Yeah,
Good
right.
Lord, why am I forgetting this? It was Game
That's
of the
all right.
Year by like everybody last year. Um, super dry text-based RPG. You've got a necktie that talks to you.
Oh.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Gosh, what was that game called?
Why is this
It
name?
was so good, no one can remember it.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
just the name. The name I can't remember. I remember the game very explicitly in playing it. But anyway, okay, well, it was super popular.
Yeah.
No, not Batman.
Disco Elysium.
Yes,
Disco
that was
Elysium.
it. Disco Elysium. That was it. So that was a role-playing game with none of the combat
Alikrian freaking
elements,
knew
right?
it. Of course he did.
Yeah, that's right. And it did have those like you can make
Elysium.
choices
Yeah.
that impacted the game, seemingly. But you know, it's when those things happen, people do talk about it. As a matter of fact, I think the news I saw was that Baldur's Gate 3 just released a patch that broadened out the true evil playthrough.
The endings, yeah, the evil endings are now more differentiated.
Yeah, so like, you know, you could go through and do that if you wanted to. But yeah, most games don't really let us do that. They give us and not to spoil it, but I thought that Star Wars, the new Star Wars actually suffered a bit of that, where it makes you think that you're making a difference and then you're kind of like, I guess it didn't really make much of a
Yeah,
difference.
different endings based on your player choices is one of those sets. It definitely belongs in the set of things you can select to make your game into an RPG. I would
Yeah.
say.
Well, it's like Mass Effect 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody was excited for it before it came out, and they got to the endings, and it's like, oh, none of our choices matter.
These are all the same. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Witcher 3 I felt was a true RPG. Even though you only had one character, you know, and it was pre-built, I felt that was a true RPG.
Action RPG.
Yes, it had action because it wasn't turn-based, even though it was turn-based because everything is counted by seconds. And you could be
Wait,
fast
it's
or
got to
slow.
be it's got to be turn-based to be
Eric
an action
No.
says that.
Turn-based is one of the set of things you can select.
Let me quote Eric.
Okay.
You can rewind this later on the review. Eric said, in order to be an RPG, it has to be turn-based, and it cannot ever deviate from that. It must have set turns, and you have to do it one by one. You're not allowed to just hit spacebar to cheat your way through turn-based mechanics. That's in the end of the quote.
Yeah.
Okay.
So according to Eric,
Verbatim.
what were those really bad turn-based strategy games we used to play? Those games were all RPGs, according to Eric.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
Yeah, Eric, you're flat out wrong too, and that's a fact.
What do you mean? Oh, the Warcraft? Which turn?
Yeah, I guess Warcraft was turn-based, wasn't it?
No. That was real time.
I don't know. All the strategy games in the beginning were all turn-based, right? Like not Warcraft. That one was real time, but yeah, I mean, but you have to remember, role-playing games like D&D started as trying to expand upon turn-based tabletop simulator games.
Yeah, they were mostly like there was a French game, I forget what it was called, but they trained generals and stuff using this combat simulator essentially with like little pieces that you put on a board, and they had attributes like infantry could go this far and do this much damage, and and then wargaming, you know, was born with that, and then role playing was a branch of that, a sub branch of that.
So back to our how good is it to be a computer gamer? Think about how much that sucked.
I thought we were talking about a Reddit thread now.
You ever play Warhammer 30K? Like, that's awful.
I don't even know what we're talking about at this point.
Yeah. No, I like your idea though. Well, I'll have to think about favorite RPG though, Dathan. I definitely have
for
several
next
of
week's
them.
show. Next week.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's a tough one.
I wonder if part of the reason people are claiming that Legend of Zelda is an RPG is because the newer versions have slightly shifted from the older original Zelda games to kind of add more RPG elements to them.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely.
And so it may
see
be
where
a
they're coming
case that you were having a debate with a.
Did you not just hear what Eric was talking about?
No, an
Legend of
8-year-old
Zelda
kid.
is not an RPG.
No, it's not. I'm saying
It's not
that
turn-based.
the newer
Yeah.
ones are closer. They've added more RPG elements to them.
Hold
So
on. Eric, does it count if I hit the pause button? And if a game lets me do that, does that make it turn-based enough now?
It's effectively turn-based. Yeah,
Okay. Zelda's now an RPG.
I'll allow it.
No, go on, Chris. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm wondering if that's where a lot of people are getting that from because
Yeah.
realistic.
Not quite. It was the peer pressure, a-hole. That's I mean, I can.
with your luck, then the maybe the viewer's luck, the camera will come back.
Camera
on.
turn back on.
Yeah.
So stupid. I hate this one.
Gosh, Dathan, why are you so mad again? Jeez. All right.
So yeah, but a lot of those older RPG games were all turn-based. Skies of Arcadia,
Sure.
Grandia 2, Final Fantasy games were all turn-based.
Well, some of that was because they had to do a turn-based.
Yeah,
they couldn't.
They had to. The
it was
technology
the
was
limitations of
way
the
too
technology.
limited.
Oh,
exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
how many turn-based RPGs are there?
Baldur's
today?
Gate 3. Let's not say limitation, man. I sound like a broken record, but it's a great
You
game.
do.
Baldur's Gate
If you
3?
like it, maybe you should just marry it.
I should marry it.
Yeah.
I've been trying.
I know you have. You've got all those romances down.
Yeah.
It's a game mechanic choice that developers have in. Because I mean they've got that new metal gun. No. What was it? Was an action game before, but they've got the tactics version they're coming out with.
Oh, Metal Slug.
Yeah, Metal Slug Tactics, which is going to be a turn-based game.
Sure.
It was the biggest reason I was not going
an RPG.
Yeah, I was not going to get Baldur's Gate 3 because it was turn-based. And I felt like I was done with that period of gaming, right? Because I just felt I was. And then I got it, and I was surprised at how exciting turn-based combat can actually be. And that's weird because I think of it as the exact opposite. I think of it as methodical, plotting, and largely predictable in a way. You've got your roles, but other than that, I don't feel it's exciting. But I actually had adrenaline-inducing moments playing Baldur's Gate 3 in some of the combats.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised by that.
One of these days, I need to open up my copy of Baldur's Gate 3, but it's in my backlog. If you guys keep talking about it, maybe I'll have to open it up.
I mean, I have to be honest. It's not the best game I've played of that genre at all. It's really good though. But
if one of my 4 discs is scratched, Eric, I'm gonna come after you, sir.
And it is long. That's the other thing too. It's long. And and depending on who you talk to, it seems like everybody I've talked to has one of the acts that they didn't really gel with. And depending on which act that is for you will largely depend on whether you finish the game or whether you don't, from the people that I've talked with.
Yeah. Yeah. Or how well you enjoyed it.
Or how well you enjoy it. Yeah. So there's that caveat, because the acts are very different in the way that the setting is and the kind of the style of game that they throw at you a little bit for a role-playing game. Yeah.
Yeah, that you could run into, I think, what they refer to as a recency bias.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not the right name, but if the last experience you had with something was bad, but overall it was a really good experience, you'll be more likely to think it was a bad experience. So
Yeah.
you run the risk of doing that if you don't like the last act of that game.
And it is long.
Yeah.
There's a lot, which I like. I mean, it was money well spent going back to the
Sure.
money thing because I played through it twice. I mean, like I didn't hate on it, but it still is, like it's got that I warn people about with it.
How much money would you have paid for Baldur's Gate 3 to make it unlikable? So the game was like $70, right? We
I
lost
think it was
Chris.
60. I think it was
Was
60.
Was it
Yeah.
if it was $70? Would you like it? Not as much.
No,
Was it
but maybe I wouldn't
80?
have bought it. No, because
Yeah.
remember, my biggest sticking point on that was that it was turn-based. I thought that I actually wouldn't like it because it was turn-based. And then the hype got to me. And so I paid for it just based off that. I actually didn't care about the price point. It was that it was going to be turn-based combat. Um, the Star Wars one right now is the sticky one. And that's why I asked you guys, like, hey, what do you think about their subscription model? Because I could just do a subscription for a month, play that game and cancel it. And now I've got the game for $19. Right?
It's not
And so
bad.
that's probably what I'm going to do because God of War comes out here in a couple weeks anyway. And that's the game that I actually really want to play.
Well, the Assassin's Creed game is coming out to November, Dathan.
Yeah.
Second week
So
in
you
November.
could wait a little bit and get it when that comes out too.
Yeah, but then I'd have to plow through 2 Ubisoft games
Well, there's
basically
no.
to try to do that,
You don't
right?
have to beat every game. There's that
Oh, yeah,
notion
you
too.
do.
Like every game you gotta sit through and like, no, like I don't have time for that.
I know, but I tend to actually do that now. I used to not. I used to not at all. But now,
There's
like,
a
I
leak,
tend to
man.
actually sit down with them and play through them.
I've heard some of the conversation. The definition of RPG is different for a video game RPG versus a tabletop RPG D&D. I've heard too many people conflate them together. There are elements of overlaps for sure.
Yeah, totally. They're entirely different genres.
They are, but I think that there are games that specifically on the PC try and are more successful at nailing the tabletop than the than others, right?
Yeah, you can get closer and further away, but the target is still, on the horizon. It's never you're never there.
I know how we can define this. We'll just use AI.
Right. Well, what about World of Warcraft? That might be the closest that we've come to a tabletop RPG, actually.
I don't like that comparison at all
Why not?
because I hate World of Warcraft.
I know, but you're playing with a bunch of people. They're real time. People can act like they're characters in it. You're
Real
free to
time-
do whatever.
Real time isn't a thing in tabletop RPG. It's not. one
It's
that's
turn
good.
based. World of Warcraft.
It's not turn based.
Oh, shut up. You can pause it. And you told me if I can pause it, then I can.
Pause it.
Oh yeah, that's true. You can't pause it. Actually, that is the worst part about World of Warcraft. If I need to take a leak, I'm just gonna die.
Yeah, you're hosed.
Yeah, it's not good. No, I don't know. I think that the one thing that I do think about World of Warcraft and games like that is that they did offer something that a tabletop experience offered.
Cooperative play.
Real-time
Sure.
conversation. People acted, as weird as that was, they acted like their character.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in World of Warcraft, there was this guy that I ran across that just made hats.
Right.
That's all he did for like 6 hours out of his Saturday night. He just made hats. And I asked him, I'm like, do you seriously just do this on Saturday night? And he's like, yeah, that's what I do. I make hats. And every Saturday that I played that game, he was standing in the corner of the underneath or whatever that was, the underworld, making hats.
He's a
And
shrubber.
selling them.
His father
Yeah.
was a shrubber.
Right. How much more of a role-playing game can you get than that, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like I've never made a D&D character that's a hat maker, and that's all.
Well,
I did.
then you're not a very good D&D player.
I guess maybe not. Maybe that's I'm playing the game wrong. That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
No, I don't know. I do think that it's an interesting conversation. Um, but yeah, I think that we don't give enough credit actually to the multiplayer online, whatever that is, role playing games, because I do think that they did an aspect of gaming that people wanted, that were tabletop players, that wasn't served by any, CRPG. And then since they got so popular, and since they also were annoying and a huge time sink, we kind of hated on them pretty quickly. And I don't think that we gave them the fair credit for what they did offer, or still do. That game is still huge, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Good topic though, Dathan. I'll mull it over for the best.
Should we end the
Yes.
show there? I was gonna see how long you guys
Yeah.
can talk with
Yeah.
about RPGs for 40 minutes.
Well, it's something that Eric and I enjoy because we used to play D&D together, right? Like, that's a thing.
No, it's all good. No, this has been good conversation
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, let's end the show there. I know Dathan's got to work tomorrow. But
He's already in bed.
Yeah.
Is he still there?
I'm
He's
still
asleep.
Still here.
Meditative breathing exercises to fall asleep.
Yeah, it was the peer pressure, a-hole. That's what. Thank you for that.
All right. Any final thoughts, you guys, before we go?
I got nothing. My
Thanks-
final
thanks-
thought was the RPG, and it turned into something
Yeah.
way beyond than I thought. So
Thanks for everyone being in the chat tonight. Green Knight and fun stuff. I don't think we've ever seen you here before, but thank you. Alikrian, you're always here. Saying Spirits, thank you, sir.
Hanging in, man.
MG made it on. Who else am I missing?
Biggie D was here.
Biggie D was here in the beginning, and Steps Gaming was
That's-
here really early. So anyway, thank you guys. We really appreciate you watching, and be sure to give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel, or you could watch Ace of Jacks Media Grounds watch Twilight while he's watching his phone on his channel. Right?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Actually, he put out a video on Astrobot earlier today that had a whole bunch of seagulls defecating on something like that. That was actually interesting. I had not seen that in the game yet.
Yeah, there's some secrets that you can get, like little pop-ups, and then standing behind them, and different things will happen. And I just happened to hit one that was a bunch of seagulls shitting. So,
Brother.
Play game.
Can you do that in Baldur's Gate 3? Is that turn-based? No comment. Just thinking about it.
Yeah, Dathan, you can just use AI. AI says Legend of Zelda is an action adventure game. It's not an RPG game. So there
okay,
you go.
well there we go. There we go.
There you
So-
go.
Settled.
That's it.
Yeah, AI is taking over. Skynet.
Yep. Well, in this case, it'd probably be Chat GPT net.
Yeah.
Are we going to give the full controller of the U.S. military over to Chat GPT?
Whopper.
I think it's
Or
gonna
Whopper? Yeah, there you go.
Whopper. Haven't heard of that one yet.
No, that's from War Games.
More games.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I gotta go back and watch
Well, you
that
need to
one.
watch.
So
You need to
good.
watch that, but like actually watch the movie. Like put your phone down.
It impacted cybersecurity. Like Reagan saw that movie and was concerned about the state of servers that the military had information on. So it had an effect on cybersecurity early.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to watch a documentary about that movie. Yeah, that's cool. Huh. I just remember like at the beginning of the movie, like he puts in he hacks his computer so he could change his grades. That was so cool.
Mhm.
Every kid wanted to do that in high school. All right, we'll end it there. Thanks everybody.
Peace out, guys.